Mayor, we're ready when you are.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. I'm going to call to order the study session meeting for the Cathedral City Council. Today is Wednesday, March 25th, 2026, and we start this meeting with a roll call. City Clerk.
Councilmember Gordon?
Here.
Councilmember Ross?
Here.
Councilmember Lamb?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez?
Here.
Mayor Gregory?
Here. All right, the next item on our agenda is agenda finalization. Are there any changes to the study session agenda?
No.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is public comments. This is the opportunity for members of the public to comment on items that are not on the agenda. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we ask that there be no audible disturbances during public comments. Do we have any speakers that have submitted a speaker card?
We do, Mayor. The first speaker is Robert McCormick.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. McCormick.
Good afternoon, Mayor Gregory, City Council. My name is Robert McCormick. I'm a decorated United States Marine Corps veteran. I am looking to stave off another illegal eviction. I don't have a parking ticket on my civilian record in 40 years, an impeccable military record. I submitted 4 pages yesterday. I'm going to address that, but indirectly, saying as an E3 in the Marine Corps, a corporal, an E9 master gunnery sergeant, as I was stationed at a headquarters, it was heavily brassed, many full bird colonels, and all the way down. This E9 was surrounded by other E9s, E8s, E7s. They told me, McCormick, do not ever carry out an unlawful order. No matter what you do, as long as you are in the Marine Corps, you will not carry out any unlawful orders. How it is that I was illegally evicted from my apartment 16 years, never late on my rent, never late on my bills, the Fair Housing Act, per the Constitution, not complied with. And I was illegally evicted along with my fiance. None of the ranking members, the ranking file, even considered looking at the paperwork. The 3-day eviction had 5.5 pages of violations. The 60-day had 9.5 pages of violations. However, I was never found guilty in a court of law on any of it. There was no court stamp on the evictions. There was no judge's signature. And yet I was evicted. Why? Because the rank and file allowed it, carrying out an unlawful order to evict me, an unconstitutional right order to evict me. He will die. He will perish in the first week if he is homeless. This dog is used to creature comforts of humans. Air conditioning, 6 walls, a bed, couches, pillows. He will perish. The last time I was evicted and I was homeless, he gave me a week. You give me a week and get a roof over my head, or otherwise I won't be here next week. Don't murder my dog. I have done nothing wrong to merit another illegal eviction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McCormick. Is there anyone else in the audience that wishes to make a public comment on a non-agenda item? Seeing none, we will move on into our study session. The first and only item in our regular study session is item 2A, fiscal year 2025-26 capital improvements program update and maintenance of effort program projects revision. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. So John Corella will be giving the presentation this afternoon. This is a robust presentation that serves both as a capital improvement update as well as one that works to set the stage for a reprogramming of our CIP projects to meet our maintenance of effort requirements. So John will step council through this, and thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Honorable Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, fellow council members. I'm going to give you the presentation as outlined by our city manager. So moving right in, we'll start off with the CIP update, but the 5-year strategic plan goal, this fits right in there. It's community investment. I'm going to be talking about roads and infrastructure. Our agenda today will cover 2 topics, as I stated, CIP projects, and then as the city manager opened up with, we are going to talk about our recommendation to reprogram some MOE projects. So our CIP updates, we'll start off with, and I'm doing a lot of this for the public out there that may be just coming in here, but our CIP, which is the Capital Improvement Program, it's our strategic tool to prioritize budget infrastructure projects. It's based on our community needs and available funding is very critical. And every time we do our biennial budget, we send it out to a 5-year program. So we have a 5-year plan that covers fiscal years 26 to 30. In addition to that, people ask, and it's been asked at council meetings before, how do you pick projects? How do you determine which roadways need to be refurbished and rehabilitated? So this is we look for the criteria that provides a very balanced approach to how we look at it. So the city invested a while back in a pavement management program. It's a tool that many cities use. There's different softwares, but our software does the same thing. And what happened was when we invested in this program, the consultants who brought that program to us surveyed all the city streets in the city and rated their condition. So pavement condition index, PCI, we kind of live off that. And that provides us the data to at least give us numbers. And the numbers are from 0 to 100. If you get toward 100, you got a great street. If you get to 0, you don't have a street. So anywhere in between is rated as good, fair, poor, very, very poor. So with this pavement condition index in mind, and you could say, well, that works, just do all the roads from bottom to top and get your index up. But I could be spending, or we could be spending all our money in certain portions of the city that has significantly poor infrastructure. And there's some obligations we have as public stewards, and that is to move the money around and apply infrastructure improvements across the whole city, different in neighborhoods, and touch them. But we also have to blend in the fact that we do get grants and we have other sources of money. So we have applicable grants that may apply to a certain area, so we put that in the matrix. We also have assessment districts, although they're limited these days and some are running out of money, but when we have available assessment district funds, we'll optimize those and do work in those areas. CDBG, always optimizing that, but that's limited to restricted areas. Measure W, the city made the commitment when Measure W came in, that would be applied only to residential streets. So we're limited from using that on arterials. Road maintenance and rehabilitation account, otherwise known as SB1, that can be used both on traffic signals and all roadways within the city. We also like to integrate, if we've started in a neighborhood and they all have the same PCI or generally there, we like to finish it in series. So we just did that with the Whitewater neighborhood, which is north of Dinah Shore and west of Cathedral Canyon. Basically, with this last contract being let, we'll have completed the entire neighborhood from Ramon Road all the way to Dinah Shore. So, and then that'll go into a maintenance cycle that we try at least salvaging streets or saving the streets for at least 25 years with good maintenance to make it last that long. And then we have potential restrictions. We get a lot of money in HSIP, and a lot of people say you get a lot of the, this grant money for safety projects through the Highway Safety Improvement Program. HSIP is very strict about the fact that you will do safety improvements, but you will not do paving. It is not a paving rehabilitation grant. And then, once again, we take all that and we look at doing a balance, what we call the citywide balance, is making sure that neighborhoods are touched Different districts are touched in each CIP program, so we're not concentrated in one area versus another. So in the 5-year program investments that we have coming up that we adopted last year, so through 25-26, there's $9.8 million worth of investments that we've done this going through this fiscal year. And just to let you know, that's a little lopsided because we got significant investments for traffic signal improvements on through the HSIP program. And you might be noticing some of them, you've seen the little yellow backers coming on signals, which is something we've been looking forward to in a long time. So those improvements are happening, and then there's a lot of improvements in the control cabinets that you're not noticing, like our traffic preemption in there. In addition,
John,
pardon me.
Mayor, do you want us to ask questions as they come up, or you want us to wait to the end of a?
Have something burning, pertinent, you can ask. You might get told it's coming up, but you can ask.
I think it's just a drop down of what you have. When you talk about doing maintenance and repairs and what we're allowed to spend money on and what we aren't allowed to spend money on, can we spend money on supplies, not necessarily the building yet, but stocking up on gravel or granite or whatever you're going to use for a future project? Or does that money have to be spent specifically at that time for the project?
Typically, well, we're talking roadway construction?
Yes, of course.
Or we're talking water bottles?
I'm talking roadway construction.
Roadway construction, it's hard for us to do that because we don't actually build roads ourselves internally. We have contractors do that. So it doesn't really apply to what we'd be doing.
Okay,
and
thank
if
you.
we did, there's a fine line between having the inventory and having to apply it to the road because a lot of our credits happen when we apply it to the road and it's in service.
So it's more in time than it is planning ahead.
Correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, and then in 2026-27, we have 5 million programmed, which is more likely in our normal years when we don't have that significant bolstering from grant programs. So the progress of projects, you can see that roadways improved 10.6 miles this fiscal year, bike lanes added, and you can see down the list. And you can see significantly the signals that we've improved, so 61. And then some of the highlights of the projects completed is we do our RIAS program. We either do it spring or the fall, temperature dependent. You've seen that in this year. We did it in the fall and then carried over a little bit toward the winter because we did have a little warmer winter. Whispering Palms has been completed, Perez Road completed, Esperanza Park. It's pretty much completed on that. And then what we have under construction, and these are projects that you've approved and authorized, and these are all underway. You can see the bar chart shows you the stages for these 7 projects that are underway. So upcoming construction projects that you'll be seeing fairly soon, and you're gonna make your decision on approval of these. And that would be our HSIP Cycle 11, pedestrian sidewalk, crosswalk updates, and that's at non-signalized intersection improvements, Cypress Road, Santoro Retention Basin, Cathedral Canyon sidewalk at Paseo Azulejo. Councilmember Lamb, thank you for that one. And then Dream Homes neighborhood crack repair.
And so those were all previously budgeted, or with the one exception, some council community assistance fund
Correct.
budgeted for the current year. So none of these are additions, correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you.
There's no new surprises or additions in this whole entire presentation.
Right, but you will be asking later or discussing moving some from
Yes.
different years. So, okay, I just wanted to make sure that if we get to where there's been recommended movement, that those are being highlighted. I assumed you will.
That's an accurate statement. Thank you. And then projects under design. Once again, you know about these projects too as well. So from Ramon Road Bridge, Vista Chino Bridge, Date Palm Road north of I-10 widening, which we'll be talking about. And then East Palm Canyon widening, we'll be talking about downtown Dog Park, Canyon Shores traffic signal. Tropical Storm Hillary, Date Palm, Vista Chino. These are all projects that we're currently working on. So not only is the engineering division of Public Works and Public Works Maintenance working on their projects, they're working on the planning portions. We're also managing the construction portions. So everything's being done in parallel, not necessarily in series. So with that, I'm going to move into our MOE programmed project revisions that we're recommending. So MOE, what is the MOE? MOE is maintenance of effort. And maintenance effort is the minimum amount of money of general funds that the city is required to spend annually on roadway projects. This maintains our eligibility for state transportation funds. Up to 2017, before RMRA SB1 was voted in by the voters, we had RCTC's Measure A, which was a form of, it's our tax that is passed on to cities to be able to use for transportation projects as well as traffic signal projects versus the gas tax, the prior gas tax that's currently in place. That cannot be used for signals, but it can be used for roadways. So there are caveats here. In that Measure A, there was a maintenance of effort requirement of $391,000, which the city would annually meet. RMRA comes in, and I'm just going to say SB1 because that's going to get my tongue twisted over this conversation. Our MOE was established because of the monies spent, and they did this with all the cities at that time for 2010, 11, and 12, what our expenditures were on capital improvements out of general funds for roadway projects. Our average was established at $905,000. That's what's in place today when that bill was initiated and signed into law.
Right, so those don't add together. I mean, the 391,000 is included in the 905,000.
Yes,
So our minimum.
Not cumulative, it just overlaps it.
Right.
And
Yes. And
that's a good question
and
to
the
ask.
danger
Because
is you
people
would.
say, oh, you got 1.2 million you need to spend, and it's not that.
And of course, the danger is you would potentially lose your SB1 funds if you didn't reach the 905, and somehow you got all the way below the 391, you could lose your Measure A funds.
Correct. So in this past fiscal years, 25, 26, city committed in its program of projects. Remember, the capital improvement program is a program of projects. They're not actually budgeted until we come in. They're budgeted, but they're not exactly encumbered till we come to city council with the approval for contracts or design and the other stuff that has to be done with the projects. So we committed to $1.5 million in MOE funds during 25-26. Our expenditures to date are $278,000. That's approximately. City committed to expend 1.3 MOE funds during 26-27. So right now we're behind. I'll just state that right now. We're behind in these expenditures. And I'll get to what we're learning from this too as well. So you can see in our past 8 years, when we first got our funding from SB1, which is why we have to match that with the $905,000. 2019, obviously, it was the initiating year. We got we did our general fund expenditures. 2020, we were on a roll. We got to COVID, and there were some concessions regarding our SB1, our SB1 match that we had to expend in 2021, 22, 23. Once again, you see we ramp up. And then we kind of got on a fixed schedule, but you can see that we ramp up. We might have a year that we're a little down, the next year we're up. So the consensus is that it's very hard to spend the $900,000 in 1 year because projects don't fit in that puzzle piece. So you either pull from 1 year and you push in the other, and you kind of, since the state did your required match on a 3-year, 2010 to 2012, we've gotten in the mode that it's a kind of a 3-year rolling average of expenditures. But this year, we got caught, and I'll tell you the reason why that is occurring. So we have a project, and this is one of the ones that we're looking to do revisions. So we have East Palm Canyon Drive widening master underground project and traffic signal at Cree. We have some slowdowns on this. This is a big project. We've been working on it for years. SCE has already did the design. It's got 2 separate funding sources. You have the MUP fund that's going to pay for all the expenditures for the underground and the power lines, and the city at the same time decided that we need to improve and widen that roadway while we have the opportunity to do that. So we're having some delays with SCE because we added the traffic signal there and they're integrating that. And then we found out that Caltrans, with the last power pole, is conveniently located just inside of Palm Springs, which right near Golf Center Drive, and Caltrans is requiring a permit to work in that part of the city because East Palm Canyon changes the Highway 111, which is under Caltrans jurisdiction at that location. So we're having some delays there. That was scheduled to use $900,000 of MOE monies. So hold that thought. There's $900,000 that wasn't expended. Then we get to Ocotillo Square, and staff is looking at opportunities here. So Ocotillo Square, we had MOE monies of $600,000 program to do the design of the roadways in this area. Get the design done, because we've been expending funds in CDBG, we've been expending funds in MOE through there, and so we said, let's get the base plans done, because that does, you can get credit for your design in MOE. Well, we also have an overlapping plan of the state revolving fund septic to sewer project, so getting sewer for this area. And right now, our consultant is starting the initiating. They got approval to start proceeding with the design in this area. With that design, we took a step back going, well, wait a second, they're gonna do a lot of the base plans that we can send to a consultant or get them to give us a lower price to do the base plans as if we went separately. Let's see how thorough and deep their plans are to put the sewer in, and take those AutoCAD parameters and use them for the base sheets for our street and road work. So we kind of stalled that a little bit in moving this project forward. That was a commitment of that $600,000 that was spread across 2 years that we're delaying. Then we get to Date Palm Drive, north of I-10 widening. That project is a joint project with CVAG to make that 2-lane road into a 6-lane road. It's been on the CIP for a number of years. The commitment with CVAG has been since 2012, and this design is ongoing. It did get a stall recently in this last year when there was a lack of consensus in Willow Hole outfall, and that's that blue line. And this is the roadway, Varner Road, between Flat Top Mountain and Edom Hill. There's basically a water course that goes through there. And there's a lack of consensus of about 2,000 CFS. I'm getting real technical. So it's the difference between 4,000 and 6,000 CFS. The Water District changed their course in this and asked that the capacity of that culvert that goes underneath that roadway be at 6,000. We disagree. We've always thought it should be 4,000, and it has some other ramifications more downstream because water goes downstream, as you know, Councilmember Ross. So water goes downstream. We're disagreeing with the Water District. We're in discussions with them, having done some engineering and working with other developers in the area. So bottom line, We have a discussion on what the water size, what the water culvert size is, the pass the water is. In addition to that, we have an opportunity with the developer that's basically painted in the orange spots that has a map with entitled lots there, and actually perfected lot. He has a final map where he owns property in the yellow area that he doesn't need. We need it for our Varner Road improvements. So we're working out the deals to do some horse trading on us when we do our Date Palm Drive improvements. We improve his frontage, and we trade it for the land that we need to do our Varner Road thing.
Is it that swoosh of the blue where it goes over the yellow? Is that what you're going to be able to get?
That's what we're looking at, yes. We're in those negotiations right now. So it's an opportunity that comes up. And that has a $700,000 MOU. So we get to this page and we're talking about, we have 3 delayed projects that are funded with MOE for the 25, 26, 26, 27. So we have 3 trains that have left the station and they're going pretty slow, but they're chugging along. We're still doing things on it. They're not stopping. But we need to spend this MOE money by the end of this fiscal year. So staff is recommending to adjust these, the CIP, not monetarily, we're going to look at the same funding, but reschedule these 3 programmed projects that are experiencing delay and advance 2 projects that can be done easy, they're shovel ready, and move them forward. And I'll have some depictions here to make it easy to describe. But first, the 2 projects that we're proposing. First one is Cathedral Canyon Drive, street rehabilitation. It's scheduled for next year to be done. And this is from Paseo Azulejo, which is basically the south side of the new Ophelia Bringas Memorial Bridge, all the way down to Perez Road. And that's repaving taking out the pavement and repaving it and restoring any of the base that might need replacement. This aligns with other improvements that are going on in the area, the sidewalk project that's going on the west side of the roadway. And so that's,
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
So I know we all have gotten a lot of feedback from those green pylons, and I accept that they're probably here to stay. But we're not going to put those on Cathedral Canyon, are we? You know what I mean, those ugly green things that are a divider on Perez.
oh, no.
Well, I don't think we will all
Those will
define
be-
them as ugly, but
Well, I get
those
to
are-
use my
that's-
adjective.
That's a Class 2 bike lane, that's a whole separate subject.
Okay,
and
but
that's
we-
not planned for Cathedral
Not
Canyon.
planned for Cathedral Canyon, thank you.
Yes, we have an ATP
I
program,
accept-
general plan,
I accept
that's
that
not
it's
there
there.
yet.
I'm just trying to ward off the evil spirit.
And you would have this body would have the decision-making process if we did that, and I'd be remiss to even come to you without a study session if we made a drastic change like that.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So Sunny Sands, so the other MOU project that's 2 years out, that's shovel-ready, and this is just milling and filling the asphalt and replacing it, is over off of Date Palm, east side, Baristo. You can see the streets there. The PCIs are low. And that was originally programmed for construction, as I said, 2 years out. MOE 440. And it was going to be bolstered by SB1 at $900,000 too. So it's a $1.3 million project. So when you look at the original, and these are just MOE projects funded by Maintenance of Effort Projects, General Fund, you will see that this is how it lined out in the current proposed program, this capital improvement program. You have all your years there, 25, 26, you can see the other projects there. So when we take them down to where they're at today, you have the construction, design. So I'm going to walk you through this. So what we're doing is taking the design on the East Palm Canyon and pushing it to continue through to the next year and push the construction to next year, this next fiscal year. Ocotillo Square, push the design into the next year because it'll take 2 years to do it, but push that down there 2 years. The septic to sewer project's going to take a while anyway. Day Palm North widening, once again, we're continuing that design, working with CVWDs and all the development partners out there, and move that down, as you can see on the chart. Then, on the other side, we have these slow trains moving. We put them on a different track. I need something to fill this track to make it a performing asset. So what I want to do is pull up the Cathedral Canyon Perez Road to Filia Bringus Bridge, fast train, get it into that fast track and move that one along. And then move the Sunny Sands right after that, or during, it's going to be the same contract, move that into that fast track and get that one done by the end of this fiscal year. So with that, all those changes we made, we come down to this is how the distribution of MOE funds would look like. If you get down to the bottom line where it says total MOE funds per fiscal year, down at the bottom here, this is exactly the same as the slide you saw before from the very beginning. All we're doing is shifting projects around. So when it comes down to it, there's no fiscal impact associated with this. We're asking that we adjust the program on the timing of the projects. Everything will be, the total funding levels will be maintained for the 2 years. Staff will return to City Council for the approval of the contract awards. Literally, we're looking at the second week in April, or second meeting in April to award the construction contracts for the 2 advanced contracts we're talking about. In conclusion, for the whole discussion, the city is making progress in improving and maintaining roadway infrastructure. I know that's a key element for the constituency. Several traffic signal improvement projects are under construction right now. Upcoming roadway projects will begin this spring and summer. All the ones coming up in this next year that are funded from other different funding sources. And design works continues, and you saw the stack of design work that we have going on. So in conclusion, once again, the CIP is a dynamic document. Remember, those projects aren't actually encumbered in our budget. They are just placed in there as a program with funding holders. The CIP projects can be adjusted to account for the 3 delayed projects by advancing the 2 construction-ready projects. This allows the city to meet the MOE funding expenditure commitment. We're concerned about that. We don't want to test the waters if we're audited. And so we're seeking City Council support for the above CIP scheduled modifications. Now, there's a learning curve on this. And we talked about it today, staff and executive staff, and the learning curve comes down to, we want to make sure we get our MOE expended every year. And if we look at applying that to bigger projects that are a little more complicated, we may run into pitfalls because they have environmental things, they have other challenges with other agencies, and they can be slowed down. So internally, we're looking at maybe we should do MOE on a lot easier, smaller projects that we know we can get done in a year that don't have a lot of pitfalls, and apply other funding, SB1 funding, things like that, that we normally were kind of using in the neighborhoods, residential streets, and basically flip-flop that and make sure, because those are a lot more liberal in the timing and the amount of time we have to spend the funds. And with that, that's the end of my presentation. Mayor, back to you.
Great. Thank you. All right, looking in the queue for questions, Council, I see Councilmember Gordon.
Thank you. I think you explained this. I want to make sure I understand it clearly. On the Sunny Sands project, the shift from 440,000 to 840,000 is to ensure that we're using the MOE funds this year. Is that correct?
That's a very accurate statement. And what we're going to do is, instead of it before, in the latter year, being 440 in MOE and bolstered by SB1, since SB1 is a very easy program to change, you just have to do the resolutions and have public transparency in it. We're going to use more MOE funding and bolster it in the back end with the SB1.
Got it. So what you're proposing really is sort of MOE insurance, that we are spending that money this year and each ensuing year so that we've expended those funds that have to be a little more rigidly managed, and then we have the flexibility of the SB1. Is that right?
Correct.
Thank you.
You could have done my presentation.
Okay, so let me just piggyback real fast. So because it's the same question as hers, but you're going to add that MOE this year, the SB1 this year. So from what project is that going to come?
Actually, we're not. We're actually reducing SB1. We're going to have to find a project to move.
All right, that's right. Yeah, that's why you're going to add
You're
MOE
in reverse.
and you're going to have in the reverse. So where is the SB1 proposed to be spent in the?
Oh, we're going to be doing our SB1 resolution coming up soon. We always have a project stack of projects, so we're not in a rush to actually determine where that is yet.
Yes.
And we can vet that further when we do our SB1 resolution. So
Okay.
there is a line of projects that we always consider for that, but there are alternatives.
And those are projects
can use
that
that.
are in the 5-year CIP, I hope. They're not
Yes.
added. You're not going to just be out there and say, oh, we end up with extra SB1, so somehow jump to projects that aren't
We're not going to
already
do
in.
any wholesale, at least right now, today,
Right,
pending any emergency or challenge. We're not planning on making any wholesale changes to anything till our next biennial budget opportunity, which will be in 2 years or another year.
okay. All right, yeah, because, so the SB1 that you save in the current year, you're not proposing to spend that in the outer years?
No, it's not affecting our current SB1, or in fact, one of our SB1 projects is the, what we call the Landau Alley up in the Panorama area, and that one's coming up, and that one's just rolling along and has the funding available for it. We're behind on the funding on that. The beauty of SB1, and from the onset of the program, we thought it would be really restrictive, and I had conversations with the state that run the program, and they said it's very, as long as you're transparent, you can actually build up for years the amount of money you need for bigger projects.
Right, I think they would want to see what project it was. They wouldn't want you to just build it up in the bank saying for future
No,
projects.
you have to do your annual resolutions,
Right.
so the transparency there is so the public is seeing what
All
you're.
right, so that would come out in the wash in a future revision of the SB1 plan, is what you're saying.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Sorry, didn't mean to jump in, but while we were on the topic. All right, next up is Mayor Pro Tem Gutierrez.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm very happy to hear that you do have a backup plan. I know things do happen and get delayed, so I'm happy to hear that. And also, residents, it might be for the best because residents want to make sure that that whatever projects you're doing, they're visible. They're within our streets. So I believe that switching or moving things around from north of, on Dade Palm, north of I-10 to Varner, right now it's very helpful to do residential streets where people are affected immediately, and there's a lot that do travel around those areas. And my other question was already asked regarding SB1. Now, SB1 is state, and Measure A is county, correct?
Yes, well, it's administered RCTC, yes.
Oh, okay. Now, just to clarify, for instance, the Measure A is $390,000, I believe.
Correct.
Now, the MOE, the city must spend at least that amount also, right?
but it's not cumulative. So if we spend our 905,000 for SB1, that counts. And actually, in the Measure A, they actually let you kind of bank a lot of that forward. So it lets you accumulate
Oh, okay, so it's not cumulative, you have to, so separate, it's not
your
separate.
MOE.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Now, a lot of residents do ask, what's going on with DAPOM? Do you have any idea when we're gonna actually approve those plans and put it out for an RFP?
It's a good question, and I'm prepared for that. Date Palm Drive is very important. It's a very important arterial. The portion between Vista Chino and, to be specific, about 200 feet past Los Gatos, we're subject to a Stafford Act grant, which is federal, due to Tropical Storm Hillary, so we went into a federal process. Once again, you know, bridges, it's the same process. It's gonna take a while. In fact, it's gonna take about 2 to 3, I'd say even 4 years, because we're along a Lot T property on the other side. We have to go through the full environmental process, and then we have tribal right-of-way to acquire. So it's progressing. We're going through that process right now in earnest, as much as we can push it earnestly. So everything that comes back on our side, we're pushing. And so that's moving along.
So it's not at least 3 to 4 years before we break ground on DAPOM?
If we choose to stay with the federal funding.
Correct.
Or if we wanted to do something with our funding, we could do whatever we want. But I think we'd take advantage of the $2.7 million that the federal's gonna apply toward the project, I believe.
Okay.
Then we have the part that's remaining down to Avenue 30. Once again, the west side of the street, on the west side of the median, we can go out there and pave it right now if we wanted. We could do whatever because that's not in the project. But we are designing that whole project as a whole all the way down to 30. We're paying our share of the federal participation on that, but we're getting it all designed. The other side of the road is being designed too, but that also abuts tribal property, and we're gonna have to deal with that right away as well too, on that same note.
And we're not planning to do anything from 30th to about a little bit north of Tortuga then, because we can do that if we want, if we choose to, but from what I kind of read you is you're better off doing it all in its entirety.
Well, that's a decision. From a staff standpoint, we like bulk and like getting things done, economy of scale. And then we also have the portion that's from 30th all the way down to Ramon Road that needs to be addressed too. And that's basically unfunded, and that's not in our program right now. So there's a lot. Our arterial roads are a challenge because they're high dollar cost. And so moving this money around, we're doing the most we can, you know, with what we have. And we've been very successful in getting grants. The one with the, I'll commend it to Armando, our city engineer. He was tenacious on the Vista Chino with the help of the finance department as well too. The Vista Chino repaving, which is going through the process right now. So we have a portion of Vista Chino that still needs to be repaved from Tropical Storm Hillary. And then we have that portion of Date Palm Drive that needs to be restored too. The beauty of the Date Palm Drive one with the Stafford Act one is that they built in money and they're requiring us to address the Los Gatos water crossing that we have to shut down basically every storm because it gets overwhelmed. So we're addressing that right now. And that hydrology and the hydraulics is being done right now. That design work, or at least the preliminary design work.
Now, having done a survey just a couple months ago, I'm sure you remember that the residents are very concerned, and it came up as one of the top things about our pavement and the condition of our roads. We definitely have to talk to our city manager. We have to come up with a way to communicate this to our residents, to let them know what's going on. They're not aware as to how much money we're spending and where we're spending it, and if there's delays, why there's delays. And we have two huge delays right now, the one on Ramon Road and also Daypalm. We have done very little to communicate this to the residents as a city, as a council, very little. And people are frustrated and they hear that we're not doing enough when we are. It's just that we're not voicing this, we're not letting them know. So I have encouraged and talked to our city manager. We have to come up with a video, and it will be great if our mayor does his portion for Daypalm to let residents know, and we can put this all over Discover Cathedral City, letting people know on Facebook, Instagram, let them know. And also for the portion from traveling west of the bridge, Ramon Road Bridge, that portion from the bridge to 7-Eleven that is in absolutely horrible shape. And we don't have any plans to do anything with that as of yet. Have you heard anything from Palm Springs
That's
as to what's going on?
That's included in the Ramon Road Bridge project.
Yeah, but have you heard any news as to what's going on, if they're going to break
Yes.
ground? or-
Yes, and you should be getting we've been working with Palm Springs, the city of Palm Springs, who's the lead agency on the project. They've actually hired a separate PR firm and to help with the outreach for that project. The project should be anticipated to be breaking ground somewhere at the end of this year, at least by the first quarter next year, but the outreach will start fairly soon, and you may have a presentation in April or May,
May 13th.
from May 13th.
So I believe that we have to do something besides their PR. They concentrate in Palm Springs. They don't concentrate in Cathedral City residents. We
That-
have to start
Oh,
some kind of.
their budget includes outreach in both cities.
Yeah. And Mayor Pro Tem, the meeting that John and I were recently at is a executive meeting with the city managers. I was just there on Andy's behalf. So this is a regular briefing that the Palm Springs staff that are leading the project have with the executives from both cities to provide updates. Ryan is part of the communications team that is planning this. And it is absolutely planned for communication in our city because there's going to be significant impacts in our city. So this is going to set up the websites and the social media and the sort of singular place where our collective communities will be able to get information. And we want to make sure that we're working within that so that we have consistent messaging across all platforms of what is happening, where people should go for information, what is the status of the projects, et cetera. At the time that we met a number of weeks ago, the Palm Springs City Council was just approving the contract with the consultant, but that is going to be the communications lead for all of it, because we know that both our city and Palm Springs are going to be heavily impacted by it, but that arterial will affect the whole, the entire Coachella Valley for anyone that, if we have diversions from other areas, that's going to be impactful. So that's why we're really working with them to make sure that we have that consistent messaging, and we don't want to get out ahead of it because we don't have the plan yet. But they are starting that early in April. They're working in May to get all the websites and everything set up so that from May on, there is going to be solid communication, in-person outreach, meetings. Like I said, the plan is, I think they'll be at the Palm Springs City Council on May 12th and our City Council on May 13th to provide the council a full update on the communications plan. And in a recent, I think a couple weeks ago in the weekly report, there was a copy of that timeline of the main communications assets and plans that were in there.
Yeah, it will be very interesting if we can actually, that's still, for that presentation to come to us, still 2 months away. It will be very informative for our residents if we can just, with the information that we do have, just to let them know, hang on, we are doing something about it, and just a 30-second, 40-second, not commercial, but video to let them know. Like I said, DAPOM, the mayor can do something, but
Well, I think they're probably right about this one. It's been no secret that we've been frustrated with the Ramon Road Bridge for a long time. The council has, and we were promised movement in 2024. The whole city, including our staff, was promised movement, and it did not occur. And then there was a lot of shifting around. So I think I know I share your frustration. My guess would be the other council members share your frustration. The problem with doing something right now on that is they are finally moving on it. And so it's almost like we waited 2 years, and now when they're finally ready to actually do something, now we're gonna say something about it. So I think at this point, it's been no secret that they've already announced that they plan to let the contracts for that project in the fall. A lot of us are concerned that's going to be problematic because it drags so long that the funding is not going to be there, and then that slows everything down again. And we already know what's happened with like construction right of ways that we've had to renew, those kind of things. So it isn't like it's a secret on that. There's been a lot of discussion. Anybody paying attention knows that it's been delayed. And I even if you remember at the workshop, we were expressing frustration with that delay. So at this point on that one, it's probably correct, although I don't think you're wrong, that whenever we get asked, and we should be prepared when that construction comes, or when their PR part comes, if there are things that are not being shared because they don't think they're important, but we think they are, certainly our own communications event staff, we would, and through city management, we would task them, well, you don't have to just put out the information they're putting out. We can also supplement that. We don't want to end up being, against each other, but we can supplement it with things that are of more interest to Cathedral City residents. So I think
Sometimes just a coming soon goes a long way.
I think and I think that's correct. And I don't think we shouldn't necessarily have an information blackout at this point because they're getting ready to gear their part up. But I don't really think we need to do an information rollout right now, because then that would seem odd timing.
And I think that we want to make sure we have all the assets. So is there a hotline number? What is the website address? Is there somewhere you can sign up to get notifications? And so that's the information that they're putting together.
But I think the Mayor Pro Tem's correct. My guess would be when it actually happens, it's not going to be focused on Cathedral City residents or businesses. It's going to be focused probably on the whole valley to a certain degree, because people come and go through Cathedral City into Palm Springs, but Palm Springs' interest is going to be those people, and it's and to a certain degree focused on residents of Palm Springs. I think we need to be prepared to supplement that when that time comes, to make sure that we are also concluding information, and it may be not the whole information. We may be distilling parts of it down that are likely to be of interest to people in Cathedral City. And that I think that, as to the Mayor Pro Tem's point, that we shouldn't necessarily impose a blackout at this point. We should keep talking about it and keep answering back when there's questions. I know even on social media, if something comes up, I see the city, whoever the city social media is, respond back, and we'll share information. I think we should continue to do that. So.
Thank you for that, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem, too. I appreciate your feedback and thoughts. I agree with everything you said. I just want to give a little bit of update. I have been very impressed by how they brought us in to the dialogue and the discussion with Burke Ricks, having a kickoff meeting with communication staff to hear what we have to say. It's our job and my responsibility to hold them accountable to make sure we are getting some Cathedral City-centric messaging. I was encouraged that they are planning to do some business communications, some signage that is specific to Cathedral City. May have nudged and pushed a little bit for that. So we are impressed with the relationship we have with them through the CV Link project as well, where they had to balance a lot of different cities and interests that, yes, Palm Springs is the lead agency, but it will be our role to make sure we're getting some more Cathedral City specific messaging, but we will always supplement with our own messaging and if there's stuff that we need to get out there. But I wanted to let you know, we have been impressed with the collaboration and the partnership. It's been, and also hearing our concerns that what we didn't want was this project to start and tentatively, I think, fall, winter 2026, December-ish. And then we get the communication package in October and November, and it's a last-minute reminder to our residents. So we pushed for as early as possible, and they've agreed to May rollout for that. So just wanted to add that context.
All right, so I think that talks about your Ramon Road part. Now, the Date Palm part is very interesting because we're saying that the residents may not be informed. I'm thinking that at least I'm not that informed. My recollection was we're doing this design work, and then in the CIP in a couple of years, we looked for construction. And now I'm hearing, it may take 3 or 4 years to get the federal, I don't know if that's an EPA or a combination of things done on the federal side, plus now tribal right-of-way, which would intimate that maybe we're looking at expanding the roadway while this is being done. I mean, if you're not going to expand it, I don't know why you would need right-of-way. I don't know.
Because the road was, if I can interject.
Yes,
Mayor,
please.
The road was built a while back, before my time, on property that,
So you're saying there may be
wasn't
a question of
ours.
title of where the existing roadway even totally
and
lays.
plus when we're improving the drainage improvements,
Yes.
they're looking at what's the area of impact on the outfall of where that is.
Well, that
So
one,
we have to
that certainly
account for
makes
that,
sense,
too.
but I was thinking more on the portion that's not going to be the federal funding, but you spoke that there may be right-of-way acquisition
I'll
needed
just say
there.
accurately, there is
So,
right
and-
away.
well,
that
and
we
such-
build roadways.
Such things happen. Caltrans been known to do this. I actually had a piece of property years ago that Caltrans found that was on the property that I owned, one of our state routes here in the Coachella Valley, and so they kindly took it from me, but which was fine because the roadway was on it, but I know that does happen in the past. So, but that does explain it. Again, transparency, so we can understand, is that I appreciate you sharing that there are some past title issues that need to be cleaned up.
Cleaned up.
Yes, yeah. All right, so, but going back to what I said before, if this is now not going to be another year or two for that portion to be repaved, which is maybe what I would share if somebody asked me, because that's what I saw in the CIP. If it is going to be a 3 or 4 year, I think a 3 or 4 year delay, I think the Mayor Pro Tem's suggestion is quite accurate, that we need to be very transparent, and we need to, well, I mean, it doesn't do any good to say it's going to be delayed 3 or 4 years. We need to explain in a condensed but accurate way as to why that is and what we're doing to move that forward. So people know they're still going to complain, but it's not that we're playing games with them. I'm not saying we are, but it's just very hard even for council to get a grasp, at least for me, to get a grasp on a timeline there. So I can just imagine what the person that's not necessarily following along is thinking for a timeline.
I would love to share our frustration in the Public Works Department on getting projects done. So this will be a little snippet, but your idea, Mayor Pro Tem, is great with your bolstering that.
Yes,
We
I think so.
will
Now, I'm
look-
not agreeing to the part where the mayor has to be the one to make a little video or something like that. But that seems somewhat
It was a good
unnecessary.
idea.
Well,
Mayor-
we'll let communications and events decide that.
I think this is an excellent point, and I think this is a good opportunity for us to say that for all projects, large projects like this and other projects, even those outside of public works and engineering, we can do better. And I think there's opportunities for us to improve our communications and engagement with the community. And I know Ryan and I have had some discussions on how we can do that. We're also looking at a communications strategic plan. There are opportunities for us to look at how we are messaging projects that are of interest to our community. And I think over the balance of the year, we'll work to find ways to see how we can elevate those projects, make it easier to find information, share information, so that the public is informed and they're not surprised by what's going on.
All right, good. So but hopefully that the date palm is going to move along at some point, because I think it's very well taken.
I like that idea.
Yeah, because part of what I had shared with the city manager, and I was glad that and I knew why you were ready to talk about date palm, was, when I was also under the impression that when we have funding that we need to move or savings on roadway projects where we can and the timing works, and there's lots of caveats, that we were trying to scrape that into the date palm project, knowing that much of what we needed to do was the funding had not been identified. So when we're looking at here moving projects, I realize with the timing, and now even as you have shared with us even more of the timing challenges, why that isn't really part of this discussion, as far as maybe using some of this funding for that project instead of advancing other projects, is because it's not anywhere near ready, so that'll be somewhere down the road. At that point, then, of course, we would want to use what flexibility we had in whatever funding to be able to make that project a reality. And then, as you already shared, then start working on date palm even farther, to the north.
No, good idea. And now I can get Ryan working with us.
And I think the mayor
another
would do a
task.
great job being in that video. He's a good-looking guy and he's well-spoken, so
I second the motion.
you should do that. You should
I'm
do that
sorry,
video.
we're not recognizing any motions. It's a study session and it's not agendized. But thank you. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, I'm sorry to jump in there, but what you were bringing up was very pointed, and so I wanted to just
Thank you.
add to that. So did you have additional?
That will be a thank you.
All right, so next up will be Councilmember Lamb.
Great. And my original question was answered during the conversation, but the elevation of communications to particular projects and why the delay is really pivotal. And I'm especially have focused on East Palm Canyon widening, because it seems like everybody in the cove drives down the cove and turns left, either off Bankside, Melrose, Palo Verde, Cathedral Canyon, and that whole area becomes highly congested. So they have been asking me, when is the widening project? When's the project going to happen? When's it going to? And now that Palm Springs has that whole, and I don't know how many townhouses or condominiums they have to the west of that Vaughn's, where Gene Autry is, but the traffic is just bumper to bumper, going all through Cathedral City, and then it hits Cathedral Canyon, and then it hits, Date Palm, and then there's a congestion around where they're putting in the Agua Caliente gas station still, and it's down to traffic. So it is really, now that Easter week is here, it's really crazy. I was in line to make a left turn going into the west entrance into Trader Joe's. There is no light there. And there are probably 8 of us. And then the light turns for the Canyon Plaza north and south. It's like the Indy 500. It turns green and they all rush, and people are trying to turn left. And it's precarious. So anyway, we all have had that experiences, and as a council person, I've heard lots of specific anecdotal evidence that we're chomping at the bit waiting for this to happen. So the communication department that's key for, for this particular project. So thank you. That's all I.
Thank you so much. Next up is Councilmember Ross.
Save the best for last, John. Save it there for you, buddy. Okay, I have 3 questions, but they should be pretty quick. When we talk about the Ocotillo Park neighborhood streets, and we have $380,000 allocated for that, does that take care of all of the sewer projects as well?
We're not paying for the sewer projects.
Are we doing the sewer projects at the same time?
We're actually trying to work with the state, and when CVWD gets their grant funding to be able to do a sewer project, to parlay and have it all done at the same time. Whether we can insert ourselves, but we're most certainly going to try, and it looks like we're going to be able to do that.
If you could not, would you be sewering first and then paving, or paving first and coming back later
No,
and
the sewer would be
sewering?
first, if anything. But we're pretty confident that all the partners would like us to do everything at the same time. And there's economy of scale when you do things like that, too.
Okay, thank you. My next question is, we talked about the widening of 111 on East Palm Canyon. You've done it that way, right? How long on 111 will that be being worked on? How much? Is it a mile of that, a mile and a half of that?
So you're talking about the current one that we're at least delaying a little bit? So right here is the project. So from the Canyon Plaza, the West Canyon Plaza, right where you leave
Yeah,
Target.
Where the green is,
The green, going all the way to the
Golf Center
city
Drive?
limits, to the, obviously our road improvements, because of the way the city limits are in the area, will go to the city limits, which is just past Glory to God Church.
Okay. That's just about
But
Golf
the
Center, isn't it?
power
It's about
pole,
Golf Center.
the power pole has to extend to the next power pole to drop the one that's just in our city limits. We're dropping that one and go to the one in Palm Springs.
I wish I could say I completely understood that. I didn't. So I'm going to just try this a different way. We're going to run it down 111 to what looks like is Golf Center Drive, but it's really going to stop a little bit before the Glory to God Church?
At the city limits, yeah. Actually, we're on a askew angle at that point.
And, okay, and that big post will be on the north, or it's kind of a curve, so I can't really say north and south, but,
The power poles will be gone. All we're doing
They're
is
all
dropping the
undergrounding.
poles, and we have to underground to get up a pole that's in Palm Springs
okay.
to tie into that
All right,
overhead pole.
that answers that question. I only have one left. And that is when we do the widening on Date Palm at 111, will this complete most of the future needs we have of widening that area? Or we need to do another widening project as we expand across I-10?
Okay, so we've shifted over to what the tribe's doing in front of their
Mm-hmm.
property there. That'll be widened. Right now, I just got submitted plans from the developer, Cathedral Cove Center, on their Phase 2.
Oh, I'm sorry, no, I'm up at the freeway.
Okay, you're on the freeway.
But that is 111 up to that
So-
area, and that's I-10, going this way. If you go out Date Palm as far as you can go, that's where you're talking about the widening, not crossing, but right there where that Cove Center is. Is that what you're talking about?
No.
When you're talking about widening?
Widening that we're talking about on this project, let me get to that. This project starts north of I-10. It goes all the way up to Varner Road.
Okay, all right, I understand that now. Thank you. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And thank you, John. I did have just a couple of other questions. So my standard question
letting me
always
go.
is, when you choose road projects to move forward or to add to the list, these aren't added, they're moved forward, were there other projects you considered that could have been moved forward, and why did you choose the ones that you did?
The reason we chose them is they're already programmed as MOE projects, and it fit the bill as far as being in diverse locations of the city, and we hit one arterial, and we hit one residential, so we just advanced the MOE. If we started getting into other program projects, it would have caused us not necessarily to do just a budget adjustment. We may have had to do budget amendments.
All right, but you did look at the entire list, and you did consider everything on there. You didn't just see a couple and say, yeah, let's do these. You did a
We did an
Professional
MOE to MOE looking
evaluation.
at the entire list. And the other funding sources are solid for the, everything's, the potential funding sources, even going in the out years, is solid. This was just a good flip and switch, get them done. We're going to have to do them anyway. They were just advanced.
Well, right. I'm just trying to highlight that I think we always need to have a process where we evaluate all of the possible uses when we do add projects or move projects forward. And so I just was checking in with you to make sure that that was done.
Yes.
So, all All right, good. I looked at the list too. I didn't see anything obvious that, could have been done, but I'm not the professional to look at it, so thank you. And just touch a little bit on, we talked about MOE and we talked about the 900 and something thousand every year MOE obligation. And you did kind of talk a little bit about a 3-year rolling average. But my understanding what that means is you don't necessarily have to every year spend that 905,000 if, say, maybe in the previous year you spent a lot more, or you have some guarantee you're going to spend it in the year after. It can push across, because you did say, that sometimes it doesn't neatly fit right in the box every year.
That's a professional assumption that both finance and myself with experience have seen since they based the MOE on a 3-year period. Now, if you go into the state codes, and when it talks about maintenance of effort, it says whatever you need to spend in that year. But that's really not practicable. And
Right.
if we miss this MOE window, we'd be kind of farther askew than we ever have. And we
Okay,
didn't
well,
wanna-
and so now you're hitting on my question is, did we do some evaluation to see, and you did have the chart up, although it goes over several years, but did you do some kind of evaluation or in such circumstances, that's the one, to see where you are on the 3-year rolling average? So if you had to, you could, you do have projects identified that need to be done. So maybe you would want to do them anyways, even if you didn't have to, but.
And that rolling average was about 700,000 to 900,000 if you did a rolling average, which technically, if we got into an audit, they would see that we'd be using it on the cusp of the next year and we were diminished on the other. And that's why we have this cyclical, if you could see on the expenditure, that in the reality of how you do roadway projects, like I said, it's hard to fit that. I got a $900,000 or plus project every year that'll fit this window, and it just doesn't happen that way.
Right. Yeah, because if you look at this, if you just look at 2024 in the general fund, which is where you spend the MOE out of, and you added 24 and you added 25, you'd be at not quite $2 million. So it looks like if you're just looking at those 2 years that we're okay this year, so potentially you could push over. I'm not saying that you would need to, pushed over into the next year. I'm not saying that that would be a good idea. We know costs are going up, all those kind of things, and you have identified projects. But do you actually, instead of saying I have to spend at least $905,000 a year, do you sometimes look at, well, if I don't spend all of it this year, I'm okay because the last couple of years added together,
Yes.
I'm even. So, and I do appreciate what you said, and this is something for me to realize. It's not just projects we have on the books. You actually have to have at least encumbered, awarded the contracts in that fiscal year to make it count towards your MOE.
You
So
have to
that's
actually expend the funds.
so they actually have to close out in the year. We have to do.
Not close, you have to expend them. So once again, we were talking about the notice of completions.
Right.
You might have a final payment, but if you've made your last payments up to that smaller payment, all those payments before that would
Okay.
count for that.
So you can't just wait till the end of the fiscal year and then award a bunch of contracts because there's no way they're going to get done, and then at least the work done to a point where you're going to be making substantial payments on them. So that is another good reason not to play too much with the 3-year rolling average of the MOE, because you could have a year that looks like you're going to spend a certain amount of money and it just may not fall in that year. It may end up falling into the next year.
And that's why the bigger projects have more pitfalls in it, because there could be bigger things that can happen, and you have bigger chunks that have not been spent.
Right. All right. So let's talk just something. When you spoke, you mentioned for Measure W, and I think it's on your slide, that it's restricted to residential streets, and
And that was the commitment that was made to the community.
in where? where was that made in the?
It was basically a verbal commitment. I don't think it was codified.
Oh, okay. So that, I just wanted to clarify on that because, and I almost hate to bring it up because I don't think I agree with you. I think it is our intention that the portion of Measure W for the roads that was included was meant to be used on our backlog of streets, primarily residential streets. But my understanding was that they're prioritized. It's not restricted to that. If we had a priority project and we were trying to pull money together, and part of that was to put some Measure W money in there, it was not my understanding that would be an issue. It would be a consideration if it was taking funding away from residential streets, but it's not a hard and fast restriction.
And you can consider it a policy, but we're not going to be the ones that push that point. We would look to
Right.
you.
Well,
to
I
make
just
that
wanted to
decision.
clarify because sometimes, especially Measure W is new, is you start saying things like this, and then 10 years go down the road, and then something happens where there's a priority project and your residential streets are a lower priority because you've done a good job and gotten those ahead, and somebody says, well, you can't use Measure W for something because it's a feeder road. It's not it's a Cathedral Canyon, and it's not, even though there are houses on Cathedral Canyon in many areas, instead of a road that's totally residential, and it becomes, because we've said it that way for enough years, it becomes like it's law. And so I just wanted to clarify that my understanding is that when we were talking about Measure W, it was to be used on our backlog of streets, which was primarily residential streets. So that was a priority to it, but it's not legally restricted that way, or we haven't said it couldn't also be used on a priority project that's not it certainly would need to be for streets. I don't think, I wouldn't go farther than that on our commitment, but I just wanted to, this is the first I've seen that it's seemed to be shared that it was restricted to residential streets.
Well, we consider it, and in 10 years, hopefully, if I'm here, maybe I can exercise that option of using it on arterial.
All right. Okay, thank you. Council, other questions?
I did, Mayor, my understanding would be the verbiage of Measure W was what we took to the voters.
Yes.
And when that was approved, then that was what we codified. That's what we are going to do with the money. We don't just get it just change along the way. that
Well, legal
now we're
could
gonna spend this or
clarify, but
that.
it was a general tax. So we talk about what we intend to spend it on in general topics, but it's never restricted to that. Now, I'm not proposing in any way that we would change the expenditures from what we put as intended. It just caught me when it seemed to come across that it had to be used for residential streets. It's not my recollection that even in that section that it said residential streets. I know it was going to be used for roadways.
But we should certainly
The
be able to go
language
back
in
to
Measure
what.
W simply refers to repairing streets potholes.
That's what I thought. That's why I was saying I don't want to add an additional restriction and just for it to become, because we've used it so many years, then somewhere down the road somebody says, well, we have to use that on residential streets. It wasn't my understanding that that's what it was, although I'm not arguing that our intent was to work on our backlog of the streets that weren't getting done, which are really our residential streets. So, yeah, thank you. But thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. All right. Technicality, but that's one of those things when you see it, you're like, that could be a problem down the road if we put that restriction on ourselves.
It does. It just helps us stay in our lane, though.
All right. Well, don't worry. We'll help you stay in your lane always. All right.
Understood.
Anything else, council? Are there any public comments?
Mayor, I did not receive any requests to speak forms.
All right. Is there anyone in the public that wishes to speak on this item? All right. Thank you so much, John. We do appreciate the update, and we thank you for your continued work, you and your department, on moving all of this forward.
Thank you, City Council, for your continued support.
All right. All right, so the next item on our agenda is our closed session. I see we do have two closed session items. If I could ask the city attorney to please read us into closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. We do have two principal items under closed session for this afternoon. The first is a conference with legal counsel with regard to one item of existing litigation. That is Jose Garcia versus Cathedral City Police and City of Cathedral City. The second item is a conference with your labor negotiator and with regard to employee organizations, Cathedral City Firefighters Association. Your labor negotiators are Al Ford, who is our assistant city attorney, and Eswinia Soren, who is the human resources manager. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, we will now be going into closed session.
Mayor, we're ready when you are.
All right, we're back in session for our study session, and we're coming out of closed session. If I could ask the city attorney to please read us out of closed session.
I'd be happy to do that, Mayor. We did have two items. The first was the conference with legal counsel with regard to the Jose Garcia matter. You did hear a briefing from special counsel, and you did give direction on that item. There's no other reportable action on that item. The second item was a conference with your labor negotiator. You had an update from your labor negotiator on the status of negotiations with the Cathedral City Fire Association. You gave direction to your labor negotiators. That was the only reportable action on that item. That concludes our report. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And that is the last item on our study session. So we will be in recess. Our regular meeting will start at 5:30 p.m. Thank you.